Welcome back to another arcade fix. Well, we're outside on the lift gate of my pickup truck here, and I have a monitor that I got out of my garage. This is a 13-inch Wells Gardner K-4800 that came out of my baby Pac-Man. I took it out about, I guess it's been 20 years ago, and I replaced it with a HAP 13-inch, I think a Vision Pro or something like that, whatever HAP was selling at that time. Anyway, I took this monitor, it had a problem, and basically I put a cap kit in it when I first got the baby Pac-Man, and it had a beautiful picture after I put the cap kit in, but after about an hour and a half, the picture started going all wonky. And I got some screenshots of what it, after about 2 hours, what it looked like. The whole screen was just, it started with smearing of the colors, and then eventually the whole screen just turned kind of reddish pink. So I put it aside for a while, but then eventually I got it back out, and I found a schematic for it, and I went through it, started checking some voltages, and I found out that it had a bad cap because even though it was a new cap I'd put in from the cap kit, it had a open resistor on the board, and I think I even got a schematic where I drew the part of the schematic where I had the problem, and if I find it I'll put a picture up here. And anyway, I replaced the resistor and replaced the cap, and it had a beautiful picture. So I kept it for, I was going to make a test monitor out of it. And I did use it as a test monitor, like when I was putting my, when I was working on my, Astron belt. I didn't have a 19-inch monitor for the Astron belt. So I just put this in the cabinet and hooked it up and used it until I got the game working. Then when I got the game working, I went ahead and ordered a 19-inch monitor from HAP and replaced it. And I put this monitor, I used it a couple more times for some testing, to test some boards. And then I basically put it on a shelf out in my garage, and that's where it's been ever since. Well, probably about 10 years ago, I went out to get it for another test. And as you noticed, it's been necked. Here is the yoke and the back half of the monitor and the pins, and here's the neck board. And when it happened, I looked at it real closely, and they're gone now because they got wiped away. Like I say, it's been about 10 years ago, but they had paw prints up on top of the monitor. So either a stray cat got into the garage and plopped his rear end down on this thing and it busted, or it could have been a raccoon. I have raccoons around here. Sometimes I have chased them out. They get in, and so it could have been a cat, could have been a raccoon, who knows, but some type of critter broke it. And I have another picture that I took of it sitting on the shelf when I discovered that it had been broken. And if you notice, the high voltage anode cap, the rubber cap right here, it's gone, completely gone, nowhere. I looked all around, I can't find it. When I took this picture, it clearly had the anode cap on here. So what in the heck happened to the anode cap? It didn't just disappear, but it does look like there's some chew marks on this wire right here. So something else got in here and evidently must have ate the anode cap. I mean, what the heck? I mean, that thing is rubber. But anyway, as you can see, this monitor almost imploded because it's got cracks all up in here and everything. The sad part about it is it actually had no burn-in. It's got some staining on it right there, but I don't remember that being there. That's probably after the monitor, the neck got broke. It probably developed that, I'm sure, because moisture got in there with a big ass hole in the back of it there. So anyway, what am I going to do with it? Well, for a long time I've been wanting to find a tube to put in it and do a tube swap. This tube is a 370 KSB22. I think that's a pretty common tube that's found in a lot of 13-inch TV sets. So anyway, I've always been searching for one, and I came close to finding one, but it was actually a fat neck that's used on the G07s. The G07s use the fat neck, and I think the 4800, this is a skinny neck obviously, but I'm not sure if it might be the K-7000 I'm thinking of. They use both the skinny neck and the fat neck, but I don't know if they're compatible with this particular tube and this particular chassis. So I think the skinny neck will work with a lot more K-7000 13 inches than anything else. But anyway, that's for another debate. If anybody knows, you can or has a link to any information that has a lot of data on the different 13-inch tubes, because I do have a 13-inch monitor that came out of a Pac-Man, probably a Pac-Man cocktail, that has real severe burn, but the monitor still works. And I'd like to put a tube in that, so I'm gonna look that up one day if I'm successful with this and see if I can't find a tube for that. Anyway, what we got to do is, hopefully this yoke is still good, because I may have to use this yoke, but then again, if I find a tube that has a compatible yoke, that'll be a plus, because if I do, then it'll just be a simple wire up job. But as you can see, this chassis has to be cleaned. It's been sitting in the garage, like I say, for 20 years. It's got 20 years of grime, even though I put a new cap kit in it, and it has almost no hours on it. So it should be okay if I clean it up, but we'll see. So, but before I clean it up, I want to make sure that the tube I got is compatible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the yoke and take the yoke and what's left of the back of the tube, and we'll take it in the game room and we'll unbox the donor television that I hope is going to fix this monitor up. And if it looks like it's going to be compatible, then we'll come back out here probably tomorrow and we'll give this a good cleaning and get it ready for the tube swap. Okay, well here we are. I got the yoke from the neck tube from the Gardner K-4800 monitor, 13-inch. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the resistance of the windings of the yoke to find out if the yoke is still good or not. Now, I went online and I found a post on the Killer List of video that said that the 4800 monitors had two different yokes. Now, I don't know if both of them were for small neck monitors or if they had a fat neck monitor tube or what the difference is, but they just said in the post that the older 4800 monitors had a reading of 4.8 ohms on one winding and 77.9 on the other winding. And I just checked the resistance here, and the first time I checked it, on the blue and red I was getting 4.9, and on the yellow and green I was getting 76.7. So that's pretty close to what they were saying, the 4.8 and the 77.9. But then I checked it again and I was getting slightly different readings, and I don't know why, but let's go ahead and check it one more time just to see, and I'll show you what I'm getting. First, let's do the red and the blue and see what we get here. And see, I'm getting 5.4, and that's what a while ago I was getting 5.3. But then before that I was getting 4.9. But it's still, I guess, within tolerance. There you go. Went back up to 5.4. Maybe the connections here is just a little dirty. That's hard to say. Okay. All right, well, that's the blue and the red. Let's do the green and the yellow and see what we get there. All right, we're getting 77.1. Now, earlier I was getting 76.7, but the last time I checked it off camera, I was getting 77.1. Let me get a connection. All right, 77.1. So that's still, you know, probably within tolerance. I'm sure they vary a little bit. They're not all identical. But the good news is the windings aren't shorted. They're within the tolerance that the information I've been able to find out. So it should be a good yoke. Now, the hope is that the donor TV is going to have a yoke that is close to the same impedance or resistance that this yoke is. If that's the case, it'll be a drop-in replacement. Also, we have to make sure that it is, of course, the right tube, and to make sure that it has the right number of pins. Now this one right here has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then in here it's got another one, so that's 8 pins. And I should be able to pull this off, even though they were bent. I straightened them a little bit. Okay. So that's what it looks like without that little adapter on it. And we definitely have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's an 8-pin small neck picture tube. And I'll imagine this thing right here, that's probably what they call the getter. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks like it's got some kind of material inside this, and this probably is spring loaded, so I guess it when it was put in the tube before they sealed it up, the spring would keep it tight against the inside edge of the glass tube. So I guess it's probably a ground, maybe. And if you look inside, you can see 3 holes there, and I guess that's where the beam comes out of the gun. So, and of course, all that is in this part of the tube here. And of course, also the end got broke, and the little nipple on the end here also got broke off. But if we can have to use this yoke again, we ought to be able to use the yoke and use the convergent rings right here, and we'll just have to transform over to the new tube. But will the new tube fit? Is it a match? Well, that's what we're going to find out right now. Okay, here is hopefully the donor TV. As you maybe can see, it's an eBay purchase. Now, how did I know that this TV would work? I got a partial number off of the picture tube. How did I get a partial picture off the picture tube? Did the person selling this take the back off and take a picture of it? No, they didn't. So you might ask, well, how in the world did I get a partial number for the picture tube? Well, I'm going to show you in just a few minutes here, as soon as I get this thing open. I had to do a little detective work, but actually there was a picture on the auction, and I'll put a couple pictures up showing what I went by. All right, well, it's well packed. Have some cardboard jammed in here. It's bubble wrapped. All right. Let me get this box out of the way. As you can see, they had used postal boxes that's kind of reinforcing the bottom. So I can't complain about it the way it was shipped. Now, how it may have been handled in the shipping process still could have been kicked like a basketball, but the box looked pretty good, so I don't think it's too bad. All right, well, we have the line cord here. It's supposed to be a working television. Okay. So let me just bubble wrap off of here. And I will show you what I got. Well, it's upside down, for one thing, but that don't matter. All right. I can hear that ketchup commercial in my head. The one goes anticipation. Yeah. Wow. That is one unique television that I had no idea they even made. Anybody ever seen one of these? I've never seen one, but I guess there's a reason for that. Well, here it is. It's a KTV. And let's see, I think I got the model number written down here somewhere. It's a KTV model number 13 CLR-VR. I guess the CLR stands for clear. The television is completely clear, crystal clear case. And it was made in December of 2004. Now that's how I got the partial number. Let me show you here. They took pictures on the auction. And as you can see right here, there's a number, A34KPU, but then the rest of the number is covered up. And I couldn't see from this angle. You can actually see the looks like XX. Whoops. the XX on the end of it, but I couldn't see that, so I still wasn't 100% sure of what the exact number was, but the A34 KBU, that was enough to give me a clue, okay? So, the original tube that's in the 4800 is a 370 KSB22. So I did a search for that number, and I came up with an eBay auction for a tube and a yoke that said it was for video games. And it had several numbers, tube numbers, and of course it said that the particular number that the tube in that particular auction was also compatible with the 370 KSB22. Well, it also had a 34JLL40X25 and A34 AGT13X35. And here's the interesting one. It had an A34 KPU 02XX. Well, the one right here that we're looking at right now is a A34 KPU blank blank blank. But I can also already see it's got XX on the end of it. So I'm pretty sure this is a compatible tube. Now I couldn't see in the picture, couldn't tell if it was a skinny neck tube or what. But looking at it from right here, it definitely looks like a skinny neck tube, and it actually looks like it might be the same socket. So the only thing we need to do now is take this thing apart so we can get access to the yoke and take a reading on the yoke and find out whether or not we're going to be able to use that yoke or if we're going to have to put the original yoke on it. So let's go ahead and tear it down and do that. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take this thing apart. Now, I don't think I mentioned why is this TV clear? Well, it's because this was a prison television set. I think, I don't know about other states, but in the state of Virginia, in the state penitentiary, you are allowed to have televisions, but the televisions have to be clear. That's so nobody can hide contraband in the televisions. So the guards can look and see that nobody has put anything in them. But I don't know how they would put anything in them anyway, because they happen to use security bits to hold the thing together. But I just happen to know somebody that has a set of security bits here. Lucky me. So let's go ahead and see if we can tear this thing apart. So yeah, that's how I was able to, from the pictures in the auction, they just happened to take one that had a picture that was clear enough to where I could see the beginning numbers of the picture tube. So that's how I was able to pretty much, I didn't know for certain, but I had a pretty good idea that this was going to be a compatible tube. So we get this cover off and check that yoke real quick. Now I really hate to destroy a television, especially a working television. I'd much rather have a television that is not working but has a good tube in it. But what makes this a little bit easier is this one only has an RF antenna input. And the tuner, as you know, with the coming of digital TVs, let's see, there's another one right here. Where that really goes in there. Good thing I have this security bit set. That works good here. And it's magnetic. All right. Where was I? So it doesn't have a compatible tuner. You can't hook an antenna to it. You can't hook a cable box to it if you have cable TV, because cable TV has gone digital now. You'd have to have a converter box to hook up to it to be able to even use it. So, all right, let's see. So it's not like I'm ruining something that that could be used for like a gaming console or something. I mean, you could if you used it for an old school game that had channel 3 or channel 4 input. Yeah, it would work for that. But this doesn't have a composite video or a super VGA input. Now, it does have a place. Let me unplug the power cord here. That's nice. Nice power cord I can reuse somewhere. All this has is a menu, channel up, channel down, volume up and down, and it has a headphone jack. Because from what I understand, I have no knowledge because I've never been in a jail or prison, but everybody has a TV. I think they have to buy them, but if you can afford it, you can get a TV. They allow you to have it. But everybody has a headphone, so everybody uses the headphone jack. So that's all this has. Now it has 3 extra places here that's nothing in. Now I have seen a couple models on eBay, the exact same model that actually have a composite video and an audio. I think it actually has a super VGA here, the video jack, and an audio jack. It's not stereo, it's just mono. So you only would have the video and a mono input. But there's the board is here. You may be able to just populate the board and turn it into one if you wanted to. I'm sure it probably has a chip. This chip right here probably does everything, and it probably has the capability where you can hack into it and input composite video or probably super VGA. But anyway, I'm not worried about that. Okay. Well, actually the yoke looks smaller. Or does it? Looks a little different. But we'll find out here shortly. Find out where the yoke plugs in. Right here. I need my little side cutters. Or these scissors will probably do. Clip a tie strap out the way, so I can get the yoke wires out. Wouldn't this be nice if the yoke is compatible? I wouldn't have to mess with the conveyance. All right, well, they almost got the same colors. They got a red and a blue, a yellow and an orange instead of a yellow and a blue. I mean a yellow and a green. They got orange instead of green. But the red wire is still a heavy wire, just like this one. So, all right, let's do the red and the blue and see if that's going to connect. That's a lot smaller pins. All right, let's see if we can get it from the back side. Tell you what, let's just get it from the connector up here. All right, here's red, and there's the blue. .9. Okay, we done scored on the first one. Now let's see what the yellow and orange is, which is the same as the yellow and green. Come on, baby. Oh, man. 12.8. That sucks. Low impedance. Well, we're going to have to do a yoke swap and a conveyance. Hoping we'd get around that, but hey, should make for some great content, right? All right, well, let's see if the tube is actually compatible. And we definitely have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pin. So yes, I would say this tube is compatible. All right. Next thing I need to do is go back out to the 4800 chassis, and I'm going to get a measurement for the mounts. I would think the mounts are in the same place, but you never know. But we can adapt it if they're not. So I'll just take some measurements and find out if it is. If it is, then we'll be able to just take these screws out and take this tube right out of the housing here. But before I can do that, now that I know that the tube is going to be compatible, I got to go back out and we got to clean the chassis and the frame. The frame has some rust from where I think some critters not only had been chewing on the anode cup, so we'll probably be able to use this anode cup. We'll just have to change it, and I might even have to change this wire because they put some chew marks in it, but I'll determine what I'm going to do with that. And so yeah, I'm going to have to access everything, and the rust I think is probably from critters urinating on the chassis, because on the bottom of the shelf is where the majority of the rust is, on the monitor shelf, where the little lip comes out, where it sits on a shelf and you bolt it down. That's where the rust is. So any liquid that the critters released would run down and pool on that bottom, and I think that's what happened to it. So I'm going to have to clean the rust up on that. I'm going to have to take the chassis out and give it a good mean green, simple green wash job, and go from there. So, all right, so far we're looking good. Okay, let's get this chassis torn down and ready to be cleaned up. First, we're going to go ahead and just take the chassis out of the main frame here. And there's 2 screws on either side here. I think that's very similar to G07 is like this, I believe. Get these 2 screws out of here. Now the chassis should slide out. And let's see. The only thing we got left hooked up, well, got to get this. I'm pretty sure it's not any juice on it because, like I say, it's been necked for 10 years. Then we have the plug for the degaussing coil. At least it looks like the little varmints didn't chew that up. See if we can unplug it. Okay. Now the chassis is loose. Then we'll set that over to the side for now. Now, let's take the old tube off here. Now, I did measure the ears on the new tube that's going to go to replace this one, and I've measured these and they're identical. So the tube is an identical fit into the frame, so we won't have to make any modifications. But all we got to do now is take out these 4 bolts or screws. Let's see. I believe they're going to be 5/16. And there we have it. Now, the new tube has a degaussing coil on it, but I'm going to go ahead and transfer this over to the new tube because even though they should be the same, there may be a little difference in the impedance, which is very low because it has a thermistor, something like that, that actually controls it. In other words, when you first fire it up, it puts 115 volts or line voltage into it to magnetize it to degauss the tube. But then, as it's on, the thermistor because of heating up the current going through it, it actually shuts the voltage down going to it. So that's why it only works on cold startup. After it's warmed up, if you turn it off and turn it right back on, you're not going to get the degaussing because it's already heated up. But anyway, we want to make sure we keep the degaussing coil with the chassis. So I'm just going to set this over here to the side for now. Now, never noticed this before. It's got 2 little cork pads right here where the chassis sits on, and then the 2 tabs for the screws that hold it in. And this little tab right here, I think it's supposed to have a little piece of plastic that the back of the board sits in, but it's nothing there. I don't know. I'll have to investigate that. But it's a little rusty, but it's not that bad. We'll hit it with a wire brush after we wash it up. So let me go ahead and get my tools out of the way because I don't want them to get wet. And I'll come back and we'll hit both the frame and the chassis with some mean green. Now, one thing you want to be careful on the chassis here, when they made this, it's cut with a metal shear, and all these straight edges are real sharp. And if you just happen to carelessly slide your hand down on one of these edges, it'll cut it just like a knife. So whenever you around a arcade monitor and the frame right here, you got to be real careful, because it's real easy to cut yourself if you just barely let your skin just slide on it. It'll cut it just like a knife. Okay, let's start by soaking down this chassis real good with some mean green. All right. Now all we got to do is wait for everything to dry off and take another look at that frame and see if we can do something with that. Okay, let's see if we can get a little bit of the rust off of this frame. I know this is a little bit overkill, but it's what I had handy, so gotta use what you have. Okay, well, you kind of get the idea. It's going to take a while to clean this up, obviously, but we're not going to make it perfect. But we're going to try to get a lot of the major rust off of it. And I don't know whether to go back with some clear coat. They make a product called clear zinc. I think this, galvanized, clear galvanized. I think this stuff was probably, I don't know if it was galvanized at the factory. Yeah, that was galvanized. But yeah, I reckon this whole thing was probably galvanized. But it looks like it was a clear galvanized. A lot of galvanizing paint is gray in color. And I don't really want to make it gray. So I might just go ahead and see if I can't find some type of a clear coat to put on it. Because I don't think nobody locally sells the clear galvanized. You can order it through automotive supplier like Eastwood, but I don't really want to wait for it, so I might just try to pick up some clear coat, regular clear coat plastic paint. We'll see how it goes. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up, and when I get it all done and figured out, I'll be back. Well, I think I got everything ready to finally get this tube swap done, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing we need to do is get the donor tube out of the housing here, and it's just got 4 bolts here, or screws, screwed into the plastic housing. I like the big washers that they got on these. Now these have big round holes in them where the other ones have kind of square holes, but hey, that shouldn't matter. I measured the distance between the ears and they were the same, so it should drop right in. But you know how that shoulda, coulda, woulda does sometimes. But we'll see. Okay, got those out. Let's see what else we got here. They got the speaker wires running underneath the degausser there. Well, let's see, you ought to be able to cut those loose. Got a tie strap on them. And then we ought to be able to have room to run this under the degauss coil. There we go. All right, I think we're ready to lift the tube out of here. Let's see, maybe better to set it up. Okay, get this out the way. And I don't want to scratch, even though it's on poster board here on the table. I'll put a micro cloth down just so we don't mar the tube and we can spin it around easy. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to leave the yoke on it until we get it mounted in the 4800 frame. Now we got to decide the degaussing coil. I already took a measurement, and the original one, it reads right around 5 ohms. The one on this TV tube is right around 20 ohms. So, best thing to do is just to go ahead and remove it and replace it with the one from the original tube, because we're going to use the original 4800 chassis. So we don't want to mismatch. I mean, it could work, but it also could cause problems. So I'm a big opponent of if you're going to be swapping things around, it's okay to swap in new parts if they're compatible. And this is just too far off, in my opinion. Now, maybe somebody has done it and has tried it and it works. You know, that's fine. Now, the only problem I see is the grounding cable here. I wonder if it's going to be enough slack if I take the spring loose, because they have this over top of the coil. So I'm going to have to take it loose somewhere here. Yeah, I think it's going to be enough room to slide it off here. Yeah, there we go. Okay. We got that one off. Now I'm going to put this ground strap back on. And that's pretty nifty the way that works. Okay. All right, that's done. Okay. Now, let's get the degaussing coil off of this one. Now this one is on top of the ground strap. And they don't have a spring on, well, the spring is on the opposite side of this one. But we don't have to worry about it because it's just sitting down on top of it. This one is just held in with these twisted wires here. We could use tie straps, I guess. But we might put the original, yeah. They go into little holes here, and the holes on here, so we're just gonna reuse them. Okay, now just pop it off of the old tube. And plop it down on here and tie it back together. Whoops, that one broke. That's okay, it's long enough. Okay, that was easy enough. Now this ground wire, years ago I had cut that in two for the original one when I did a cap kit on the chassis. This wire is a lot thicker than this wire, but it did the same job for this tube that it did for this one. So if this is long enough, I might just go ahead and use this, or I might go ahead and unsolder this and change it. I don't know what I'm going to do about that yet. Okay, well, let me go ahead and get this out the way and get get the metal chassis over here, and let's see if we can mount the tube in the frame. Okay, well, I got the metal frame here. I think the best way to do this is to just set it down on top of it and start the screws first, rather than to try to hold it up here and try to finagle the screws into it. So let's see how that's going to do. I cleaned it up with just the wire wheel, and it's not perfect, and I didn't put anything on it to seal it, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to go with it like it is, and I think it'll be fine. I'll get these started first, and then we'll worry about evening it up in the frame, but I think it's going to be fairly even anyway. With the big holes in those ears, it gives a lot of leeway as to how it lines up. It's not really that super critical, I don't think. Let's see, it's the same size. Yes. All right, let's get these bottom ones in. Yeah. Just have to make sure I get the degaussing coil on the top side and don't pinch it. So I'm gonna have to loosen these wires up here. I didn't think about that when I tightened them down as to how this bracket was going to line up on it. So get the bracket lined up, and then I'll worry about the degaussing coil. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. If I just pulled the edge of this down to the edge of the frame, I think it'll lock down pretty good right there. Get my ratchet so I can snug them down. They don't need to be tight, but I mean, you gotta snug them. Okay, now let's see how these top ones line up. I have to loosen up this degaussing coil and on the top side as well. There we go. I don't want to pinch it, even though it looks like it's pretty sturdy. All right, both of these ears are pretty lined up too. They still have a little leeway either way, but okay. That one ought to be good right there. You can always loosen these up anytime if you need to adjust them, but the only thing you might need to adjust them if you're putting it back into a factory cabinet to get these holes to line up. You might have to spread them or pull them apart a little bit on one side or the other. But since I'm probably going to just be using this as a test monitor, it's probably not that critical anyway. And a lot of times these mount on the shelf mount, which these flanges right here have holes where you can mount it on a shelf. I think in Baby Pack it did line up on these top ones right here. Okay, now let me tie the degausser coil back down. And with that, there we have it. The tube is now in the frame. Okay, well, this video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to end this one right here and probably make this a two-parter, maybe even a three-parter. I don't know yet. Still haven't filmed the ending yet. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the tube swap video so far. If you do, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll be notified when the next arcade fix is uploaded to the channel. So for now, this has just been another arcade fix. Have you had your arcade fix today?